Welcome to the DJVonFire podcast. I'm David Joshua Vales. Producing, as always, is Jonathan Andrew Vales. What's up, Jonathan?
What's up?
Again, our goal here is to just kind of get to know people, and so what better way than for me to just give them an interview and then put it on YouTube so you can get to know them as well. And then if you notice these people walking around church, make sure you stop in and stop by and tell them hello and get to know them a little bit better. Or stop by and talk to me, and then I'd love to interview you next on the podcast. So today we have a special guest. I'm excited. I'm going to tell you right from the get-go, this is going to be a two-part podcast because I think we're going to have a lot to talk about. And so last week we had Hannah Francis on, and she did a tremendous job. We talked for like 50 minutes. I think we could have talked another 2 hours on music and all the different things that she kind of has experienced in her life already. And I know that our guest today is similar. And so we're just right at the front going to say, we're going to do a two-part podcast. You're going to see the first part today, and then a week from today, you're going to be able to see the second part. And then, as always, go back and check out Hannah Francis if you did not. Again, her podcast was amazing. And so I think it's special if you go back and see that. So Jeremiah David Dascenzo.
Hello.
Love the middle name.
Yes, it's a solid one.
It's a solid one. I should name my kids that. So, welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm very excited.
I think it's going to be a good conversation. First of all, do you remember how we met?
I was trying to think. I was probably a baby the first time you met me.
Fast forward that.
Yeah.
What's the first recollection? Do you think it's just the warehouse?
I think the first time I truly remember you as an individual person, not just your family, is probably when you guys started coming to the warehouse.
So you remember playing basketball at Landmark?
I do remember that.
Christian Academy.
Yes.
Can you remember that I was a coach?
Were you coach when I was there?
Yes.
Were you really?
Yes.
I could not have told you that.
Yes. So your brother was an 8th grader.
Yeah.
Were you 6th grade?
That was 6th grade.
2 years. Yes.
2 years.
So you don't remember me?
No, because I remember. Well, I mean, first of all, Mr. Darnell is kind of like the trauma of that portion of my year, and I remember Mike Ryan being there occasionally. Yes. Actually, no, I do remember you being there now because you sat and you did stats as well, didn't you? Yes, I do remember that.
So David would have been 4th grade.
Okay.
I believe.
Yeah.
How old are you?
I am 21.
21. So he's 19. Yeah. So he would have been 4th grade. So he would have joined the elementary and been part of the junior high. Mr. Darnell always.
Yeah.
Mr. Darnell is an old principal for the school that my kids attended, and Jeremiah and Micah played basketball there, and so So a lot of this is unscripted. So we're going to see reactions. You just saw the reaction there, and he remembered that he played basketball there, and then you did bring up Mr. Darnell.
Yeah.
Here's what I was going to say. So your brother could play basketball by 8th grade. He was
tall too.
Already.
Yeah.
And he can move, and so junior high team tore it up.
Yeah.
It was just get the ball to Micah.
Yeah.
And get out of the way, and they won a lot of games. And then I don't know if he just expected you to be like that. I feel like that's what it was, and I just felt like he was hard on you.
Yeah.
With high expectations. Now he's always has high expectations, but I was like, this poor kid. So I did have. Now, are you left-handed playing?
Yeah.
Or in all things?
Everything except for soccer. My right foot is dominant, but anything I do with my hands is left.
As soon as I see someone left-handed, I'm like, oh, here's a lefty. So I feel like that's why you stood out a bit more. But so that's when I remember coming back into I remember you being born, obviously.
Yeah.
Because our your parents and myself go way back, but starting, being around is you playing basketball in 6th grade. And then, so last week I was thinking about, how would I describe, clearly Jeremiah is my favorite Dascenzo. That's what I said last week. Okay, hear me out. And then I'm like, because Micah would be the only other one that I would have some kind of connection. We would go play basketball. I don't know if you remember, with church when your Uncle Drew
Mm-hmm.
Do you call him Uncle Drew?
Yeah.
Okay. We'd go up to the boys' home.
Yep.
And play basketball. And so I went once with your brother. You guys were a little bit older at that point, I think.
Yeah.
And because Micah was just tearing up on the basketball court.
Yeah.
So Michael, so he'd be close because I'm a basketball, I like basketball. But I think, you're doing the podcast today. I'll call you the favorite. And then Noah and Annalise, I don't even really know.
Yeah.
Like Noah and Jonathan hang out. Jonathan, how old is Noah?
Noah's 4 years younger than me, so he is currently.
So he's in between
yeah.
you two.
Yeah.
All right. So he's in between Jonathan and David, my sons, and then Annalise is a little bit younger than that.
She's 15.
15.
Yeah.
Okay. So I don't really know them, but then Sunday I preached. This is getting recorded right after I did the message on Sunday, and Annalise sends me a text, and she's like, "Great message. I'd like to be a part of your quotes." I'm like, "Oh, all right. Hi, Annalise." And,
yeah.
all right. So now I get to know Annalise, and then yesterday, I don't know if you know, Noah messaged me on Instagram.
Okay.
And it's like, great message. So they bumped up. They couldn't overtake you as the favorite Dascenzo. So you still got the lead there, but they did bump up right away. All of a sudden, like, all right. So I don't know if it was weird that I thought about them a week ago, being like, I don't even know them. And then I get a message from both of them after.
Yeah.
So
it was funny because I drove home with Annalise on Sunday because we had just driven up together, and her and I have just been like bonding lately because Noah and Micah both have their significant others, and so Annalise and I just are always together just randomly, and so we've just been hanging out a lot more. And her and I would say, are very, very similar. Out of all of my siblings, I would say her and I are probably the most similar. And so we were just talking about the message. She's super like motivated and very goal oriented, wants to improve and do things for herself and for other people. And so she was like, when she realized what you were about and what you were doing, she's like, I need to get in on that. And I was like, well, then text him. She was like, I can't do that. And I was like, no, I'll just send you his number. Like, you're fine. Yeah. So yeah, she's excited to jump on.
Yeah, and I was excited to have it. And I'm glad you talked about your relationship with her. Do you feel like that was more recent because your brothers?
Yeah, I would say like just like 2020 in general, over this past year, we've gotten a lot closer.
All right. So then describe your relationship with Noah.
So Noah and I would say Noah's the quietest out of all four of us. If anybody has like ever interacted with our family, they can probably attest to that. Multiple people have thought that Noah is a Baldridge because he would always be doing sports or like going to practices with them, and just didn't really like see him interacting with us that much. And so he's like the quietest, but I would say he is so funny, and my relationship with him is like more so like I love just hanging out with him and like goofing off, and he just it's always making me cry laughing. I don't know why. He just like knows how to push my buttons with that. But right now he's like working on his whole influence clothing brand, doing all that, and it's been fun to watch him, but also like help him with like random things that he ever needs. Like he likes to process through all of the craziness of trying to start a business, design programs, all that good stuff. So him and I get along very well. And then Mike and I historically have had a very up and down relationship. So I would say like through high school, like him and I just did not get along whatsoever. Both of us just made each other mad on purpose, constantly, accidentally. Like it was just fire and dynamite. That's what we called Annalise and Noah as well, because they also used to butt heads a lot. And so, because I was homeschooled through all of high school, so I don't know if everybody knows that, but we spent a lot of time together in the house doing things. And so Mike and I just would always like be going at it. And I would say when he went to college, he went to Olivet and stayed on campus, and he kind of started his own path. And once that happened, we really started to reconnect on a more like genuine level. Because I think just like throughout high school, neither of us were really doing great in our own paths, and then let alone with each other. And so it was one of those things where he started to find himself, and I started to realize the things that like I was doing that weren't great. And we really became a lot closer. We started painting together. Throughout like that time to like start making money. I was saving for college. He was trying to pay for it while he was in it. We actually started a little before he left. And now I think about it, but yeah. So him and I now I think work very well together in terms of doing worship and stuff. All that. We push each other now. We know we still butt heads a lot, but we know how to communicate a lot better. And I think now we use it to our benefit because we're making each other better and saying when I say something that he disagrees with, he'll tell me, and I don't have to take that personally, but I can use that to hone what I'm doing, and the same goes for him. So it's a very interesting dynamic there, but I think it's a very powerful one when it's like channeled in the right way.
Are you guys 2 years apart?
Yeah.
So that was close. So I have an older brother of 2 years. Did you feel like you always were getting compared to him? Were you not?
No.
Not really.
Yeah. Yes and no. So I was directly. It's funny that you brought up basketball because up until I started playing soccer I played soccer through junior high for like rec leagues and stuff, but I started with like a team that I consistently played with. In freshman year, I think. It was CCS, like tiny private school, kind of like Landmark was, but it was with the Doties. That's how we met them. And that was the first time when I joined that team that I really felt like I loved the sport and I enjoyed being on the team with the people, and it wasn't just like something I had to do. Our parents, when we were growing up, like always said we were going to be in a sport, mostly because we would drive them insane if we were not, because we were just so high energy. And so growing up, it was just expected. Like I played baseball, I played basketball, I played soccer, and we just would rotate through each sport throughout the different seasons. And I didn't hate it by any means, but it came to a point with baseball was the first to go. I was like, I don't want to do this. I am pitching because I'm left-handed, but I'm not good, and I don't like the game. It takes forever. So I was like, I'm dropping baseball. And then it became just soccer and basketball, and was doing that at Landmark. And then around my would have been my sophomore year of high school, I said, I'm done with basketball. I had 2 coaches that I did not get along with very well, and a lot of it was at one point one of those coaches would just call me Little Micah, and that was the moment where I was like, I'm done. Like he legitimately just like didn't really know my name, and I was like, I don't like high school basketball is so competitive, and like if you're not loving it and invested in it, it's just not worth your time. And I wasn't that great at it to begin with. I grew up with asthma, so that was always like playing a part of it, even though I wasn't consciously thinking about it. It was something that in the back of my mind, it was like, I need to work harder to be able to like keep up with everything. And so I dropped basketball sophomore year, and I said, I'm done with this. And then I finished out through my senior year with soccer. But yeah, the sports are just, it was an interesting like path for me. But besides that one coach, that was the only time that I really felt compared to Micah. Otherwise, I'd say outside of that area, I've always been a very like, you're gonna know who I am kind of a person. I don't know. I've never felt like I wanted to really blend in. I've always enjoyed what I like, and if that is what other people like, that's fine. But if it's not, I'm not gonna not like it because of that. And so I would say I have always stuck out in some regard. In high school, I like to dress very differently than everybody else, and I obnoxiously took pride in that for some reason.
You tried to have your own style.
Yeah, and I think it was, I mean, like everyone, growing into your own person, finding who you are and all that, but I mean, I learned that I really do love clothes, and I love fashion, and I like being able to express myself that way, but I never really felt the comparison that much between him, which I feel like is not the most common story, but as one of two middle children, I feel like Noah went more the route of like the kind of like take a backseat, and I was like, you're gonna notice me whether you want to or not. And so because of that, I didn't really have to deal too much with the, I don't know.
That's good. You said a couple of things in there. One, you said you were painting. Like, is that your job? Painters?
It's complicated. So right now I'm not working. I'm full-time student at Olivet Nazarene University in Bourbonnais. So I, over the summer I was painting, and I was working with Jen Meyer's dad, in Oak Park area. And so that's been pretty much my off and on job whenever I'm not in classes. He's been gracious to let us kind of come and go as we need to.
And then what is your major?
So it's, every time I say it, I get winded, but I have two majors. The first one is business administration with a concentration in nonprofit. So basically, general business, but focusing in a little bit on some of the nonprofit side of things. I did like grant writing and HR management for nonprofit, like those kinds of classes, kind of integrated with the normal business track. And then my second major is Christian studies. So when I first transferred to Olivet, I went to JJC for 3 semesters and then transferred into Olivet. And I only had my business major, and then I had some sort of ministry minor. I don't even remember what it's called anymore. And after my first semester, I was like, I do not love these business classes, but I'm loving these ministry classes. Everything I'm learning in here feels super engaging, practical, like what I'm doing, because I've obviously been super involved at Second Place since it began. And I was like, okay, so like, what am I going to do with this now? Because I felt called to go to school. I was very close to just not going to college and like figuring out a different track, because I think the price tag of college is very hefty. And so I was not going to spend that time, energy, and money on something if I didn't really feel like that's what I was supposed to do.
I think a lot of people can start relating to it. It seems like more and more as that price tag goes up, it's something you have to consider. It's not a path for everyone.
Yeah, I think the world has gotten to a place where there are enough legitimate options outside of college that it's not as scary to like the parents saying, if I choose not to go to school, I think that they could still survive. You know what I'm saying? Figure something out. So I kind of like went through that whole process, and when I got to the end of that first semester, I was like, okay, so what am I going to do with this like feeling now? Because I was not feeling settled in the business department whatsoever. And so what I decided to do was, because of the money that I was paying, I said, I want to graduate with a degree that I know will give me that return of my investment. And I felt like business was that. And so I decided to keep that major. And then I had just open slots that were going to be electives. And I decided to upgrade that minor into what is now my Christian studies major. And it's basically a general ministry degree. It's the core, they call it their core classes for the ministry department. So whether you're pastoral, youth min, children's ministry, everybody takes like these core classes, and then you do your focus. And so I just am doing those core classes, and that's my major. But I've done all of my upper division credits in youth ministry. So Dr. Garner is over the youth ministry there. She's spoken at boot camp. Jonathan might remember her. She's super great. And so I've loved getting to like just build the relationships with her as like a professor there, and just the department as a whole, I really think has pushed me in my faith and my understanding of why I serve and why I want to pursue ministry. So that's the end of that kind of journey, which I'm coming to in May. Is I'm wanting to use this business and this ministry into a kind of creating my own position in a lot of ways, but I'm wanting to be in ministry of some sort. So the like building project that we're pursuing right now, like that's like my dream. Is I would love to be able to utilize all of this like information that I got from the business department about developing teams, developing projects, and all of this stuff, but fusing that with why are we doing it and the theology of all of that. So I'm like super geeked about everything that like Second Place is doing right now, because it's exactly basically what I think I went to school for. I think that was God's way of preparing me to kind of be involved in that process and do what I can to help.
Yeah, I mean, you didn't know you would be here when you put it all together. You said it right after your first semester is kind of when you did this?
After my first semester at Olivet. So that would have been my fourth semester of college overall. Yeah. Because I graduated high school a semester early, basically. So I've been in school for like 4.5 years, essentially. So yeah, that was like after my fourth semester of school, I was like, this is not it. Because what it initially made me go business was just the fact that I felt like I'd make money with it. But at JJC, I really loved the classes. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I took accounting and like an intro to business or something. And I was like, these professors are great. I love the direction it's going. And then it was like a hard shift of like, this is not the end goal. The like corporate, stale, fully removed from like this like passion of life. And that's where I realized like making money is not what drives me. It is not finding this like job across the nation where I can just like move myself and do it. It's like I feel called to be in Moni with Second Place. And so then how does that work with now my education?
Yeah. So this is why we're going to, because I think people need to know you, get to know you first. And this is kind of the whole point of the podcast. First of all, we'll say that. Before our first one's over, we want to try to squeeze two things in. One, I think you're an amazing singer. Like anytime I hear a new worship song, like I'm not a radio guy. I do my music on YouTube, which probably makes me so old, but
a lot of people actually really like it.
I just like it, and it does give variety, and I pay the same price people probably pay for if they pay for premium Spotify. Oh,
so you like stream through YouTube? You don't just do like the like videos that are free to everyone. You like have like
so that way I can make a playlist and I can shut it off and listen to it.
Oh yeah.
So I think you can't shut your phone off, right? If you don't have the premium, so I pay the $9.99 and then.
Yeah.
So, but that way I can make playlists. So I have my different playlists, and so like anytime I hear a new Christian song, like it's like, can I hear Jeremiah singing this song? Like I try to like. So, and I sent you a couple songs this past year, and it's like totally can hear you singing this song. And so you mentioned asthma a little bit. I've heard your mom's whole story. You don't have to give the whole backlog. Do you have a story to share as far as your asthma goes, or you were kind of like too small to know?
I mean, in terms of singing, it wasn't a huge deal. The bigger thing with my singing, and I can tell the story if you'd like, but I had surgery, I don't know if you remember that, on my vocal cords at the end of 2017, I think. Okay. I'm super bad with dates. But yeah, so basically I like grew up singing and did like music was just always another one of those things that was not optional in my family, kind of like with the sports. It was like you're gonna play an instrument. And so my grandma, my mom's mom, Nani, we call her, she taught all of us grandkids, my family, the Marquards and the Eppersons, and then at the time the Oateses as well, like piano lessons. And so we would all go over to the Marquards and the Oateses once a week. We'd do like piano lessons, and then Laura would do voice lessons with us as like a group, and we called ourselves the King's Kids. We were, we really thought we were hot stuff. And that was kind of my introduction to singing like formally.
Did you enjoy all of it?
I loved it. I've always loved music. And so I loved the music aspect of it. Obviously, like the wear and tear of like seeing people all the time for me, and this is still true to this day. Like I get like worn out, and then I start to like slowly just be like, bro, I need alone time, and I need moments to like unpack from everything that's happening. But it was really fun, and I am super grateful for that time because that's where I learned how to sing properly. Laura's an amazing amazing vocal coach. And I was pushed, like I learned how to sing harmony. I learned how to like use the correct, like all that fun stuff. I don't need to get into it. But basically what ended up happening was I took lessons privately then with Laura through high school, and it became evident that my voice was not behaving the way it should be. And so by this time I'd been leading worship with Micah on Wednesday nights for the youth group for probably since I was in 7th grade. I think I started doing that. And it was just like him and I, acoustic guitar and vocals. And I was doing that every single week, or at least practicing and then playing the set. And then we would have voice lessons. And then we would have, when I joined weekend team, we'd have practice on Thursdays, and then I would sing on Sundays. And it got to the point where basically anytime I would sing, I would lose my voice completely. And I was like talking to Laura, we were trying to like figure out what is like happening. Am I singing wrong? All this stuff. And I ended up seeing a doctor, and I had what is like the equivalent of like calluses on my vocal cords. And basically there's not supposed to be there. And every time I was singing, these things were getting inflamed, and I was just going completely hoarse to the point where like after a Sunday, if I would sing a whole set with 2 services and a practice before that in the morning, I just couldn't talk the rest of the day basically. And so we saw a doctor. They said, here are your options. You can do like therapy for your voice and try to get them to go down, but they're really bad, so it's probably not going to actually work. So that leaves you with getting them lasered off and not being able to talk for 4 days, complete silence, and then slowly integrating talking and then singing after that. And so that was, I think, my junior year. And so I would have been leading the youth worship band at this point, and it had grown into like its full team of people. And we do like we did our worship night that was completely student led every year. And so I got my surgery in December, and our worship night was in February. It might have been a little bit later, March maybe. And I had like planned it so that I got my surgery. I was completely silent for those 4 days, slowly started integrating more and more and more. And then that worship night was like the first time that I really sang since having it. And so ever since then, I haven't had much problems with my voice, and I still love singing. I have to be careful. I don't yell at sports games or things like that. I kind of had to change the way I just talk in general. I talk more up, and my voice is higher now in the sense of I just talk more in my upper register rather than hurting my vocal cords and staying down there. So it was just a really like, it was a very impactful time for me of just learning this thing that I felt like God had gifted me with was suddenly like slowly fading away from my like control. And I spent those years leading up to getting the surgery so frustrated with God and so just like upset that I couldn't control what was happening because I'm the control freak. And I had to get to this point where I was like, if I'm supposed to sing, then God's going to figure out a way for me to be able to continue singing. And I remember the first doctor we went to, she was like, you probably just need to figure out something else to do because this is your vocal cords are destroyed. And like that was like point blank. She was just like not a very nice lady. And my mom was walking out like crying, and I was like, I was fine. I was like, I know that I'm gonna be able to sing if that's like I feel like that's what I'm supposed to do. And there was not a doubt in my mind that I was gonna get there. And it was just a really funny moment because we were literally like in a parking garage, and my mom was like losing it. And I was like, bro, it's okay. Like God's got it. And very atypical for me. I would say that is not usually my response to things, but for some reason I just felt like that piece of when you know, and we ended up getting it taken care of. But it's been a really like powerful thing. Even Faith has dealt with something very similar. Hers were a little less severe than mine. But like getting to connect with her and just with people in general. Yeah. My cousin Faith, over like what worship really means to you, because you start to realize when it's taken away, like how important of a role it plays in your life. And
I mean, that can speak to, I mean, people listening, like music for you, but whatever it is to someone else, you know, be it, you know, a job or a relationship or a hobby or whatever, it's something that you relate to and you love it and you feel like you're called to do it. And then I will say, because you said it's atypical for you to say God's got this, but what you're going to hear in the second part of this, because I think this is a great place to wrap it up. Don't pause me yet, Jonathan, but like, you're like, God's got this was your attitude at that moment for that. And sitting back and looking back 3, 4, whatever, however many years it was, for me as an outsider going, well, that was his moment of clarity, to where he realizes God's in control of his life.
Yeah.
And sometimes that happens, whatever age you were, 17 or whatever. Sometimes it doesn't happen until you're older. But the second part of this podcast and getting to know you last year, like, to me, it was all about, like, you knew God can do things. And so I think we'll take a break. As far as the music aspect goes, again, listen to Hannah Francis's from last week, her podcast. And then hearing you talk about it, you know, just how influential music could be or how important it is to people. But we're going to come back and talk about meditation, because a lot of people struggle with meditation. And that doesn't mean don't check in next week. What it means is just hear us out as far as meditation, because neither of us, and you can, as we're fading out here, like, I didn't feel like I could meditate.
Same, yeah.
But that was the reason why I knew I had to try it. And so we're going to give aspects of how it went for me, how it went for him, how it was an entire year, January to December. I don't want to say battle, but like, what are we going to call it? Challenge. Like, it literally was a 366 day for me. Like, I remember trying it on January 1st, and I remember December 31st. And so come back and check that out in part 2 next week, Monday, same time. Come back and check that out. Thanks for part 1.
Yeah.